Welcome to the Dynasty Academy. Michael Washington, Mark is being a pompous ass before we came on air, and Mark Ongst.
Well, I mean, you are. I'm not. I mean, you are.
Eli Manuel.
Why would you draft a wide receiver, too?
Eli, you can cut this out.
You could leave it in, too.
Restart.
Kyler Murray has a fantastic arm. It's just the decision-making for him, for me. Michael Vick just made better decisions, I feel like, overall.
Makes sense. I said 1 or 2 inches, growing 1 or 2 inches, and you're like...
And he's still going,
I have leagues on too many apps. I don't know what to follow.
welcome back to Dynasty Academy. Class is now in session. I'm your professor, Michael Washington, and my co-professor, Mark Ongst. Mark, how you doing tonight, my man? For anybody that's listening, I'm Chewbacca77. He's on 22. Is that what it was? Because 11 was taken or something like that. Or you're 11. Ongst 11.
No, Ongst 11 on.
Ongst 11. Okay. Ongst 11 on Sleeper for any of you viewers out there that are confused as to who's who, because we feel like we are asked that question all the time. We're here on Shady Sports Network. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the little dingy notifications when we're here. We're here every Thursday between 8 and 8:30 Eastern time, depending on what time my kids decide they want to go to bed. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing well, my man. We were off air doing a college football pick'em, and Mark is shocked by some of the college football spreads that take place.
I mean, I get it, but still.
You should have seen the week 0 spreads and the ones that still got covered.
I mean, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, first and foremost, we're going to do a rookie checkup tonight. We're going to check in on the rookies in each position. Even though some of the positions are kind of to start off the year, but first and foremost, I want to talk trades. We talk trades pretty often on this show. Usually Mark scours the X-verse, or formerly the Twitter's verse, to find these trades. But tonight I have one that happened in a league that I was in. I kind of talked about it a little bit on the network chat already, and got the same response that I was confused by. So I'm madly confused by this. So I'm hoping Mark will give me some clarity about what's going on. Okay. I'm laying the parameters out. Ready? 16-team league. Okay. 1 quarterback, obviously, when you're in a 16-team league. So it's a 1 quarterback. Full IDP. This team is 1-4 and is the second lowest scoring team in the league so far to date. They traded, well, actually, hold on a second. Okay, they traded for Deshaun Watson and a 3rd-round pick. They have Josh Allen on roster. And they traded their 1st-round pick for it.
Just the first. That's all I traded.
They traded their 1st-round pick, which is going to be a top 3 pick.
Right, but that's out. There's nothing else to it.
For Deshaun Watson in a 3rd.
In a 1 quarterback league.
In a 1 quarterback league.
I mean, it could be the 16th pick.
No.
I don't want that.
Well, okay. So you're just as confused by it as I am then.
It could be a 2nd-round pick. I don't want that.
It could have been a 2 quarterback league, and I don't think I want that.
No, I mean, in a 2 quarterback league, I'm still not doing that early first. The later first changes that a tiny bit because it's still a starting quarterback.
And this
for
dude's
2 years, but
and this dude's team is not good.
Clearly,
No. I mean, the 1-4 start isn't because they're like 7th in the league in scoring and they've had 1st against them. They're literally
15th.
Yeah, like they're 15th in the league in scoring. Like, they're not a good squad. This is going to be a top 3 pick. And they made that trade. And then I had people in the chat in the leagues defending the trade.
What?
Defending the trade.
What could be? What is a defense?
So one person made the defense because Josh Allen is hurt.
Is he?
And I guess he was downgraded to questionable. And Buffalo's offense is struggling. So I'm not sure.
Oh, he was cleared of the concussion during the game.
He was cleared, but he was downgraded to questionable. I got the alert earlier today that he was downgraded to questionable for the game. But anyways, I but even if that's the case, I still don't understand the defense of this. There's people saying that they're still Deshaun Watson believers. I don't know why. This guy's literally about to lose his job, I feel like, this year. I don't know how you feel about that, but I honestly think they're going to switch to Jameis Winston here sooner rather than later if he keeps playing the way he's playing.
I mean, I feel like you have to try something different because it's been terrible. It's not been remotely good. You haven't really been in games outside of your defense. So, could have gotten Smith or Daniel Jones or O'Connell. Possibly have a guy for this week. I mean, Spencer Rattler is starting this week.
So it is a deep league, and the quarterback, the free agents looks pretty terrible. However,
I'm talking about you could trade for them and give up God if you're really that desperate. You're second at least.
I mean, I would have given him Jared Goff for that pick. I have Goff sitting on my bench.
For that, of course, for you would for that pick. I would give him Patrick Mahomes for that pick.
This guy said Allen and Buffalo have not played well. Perhaps get ahead of the curve and secure Watson now before the price goes up. I literally said you traded a top 3 pick. It can't get higher. That's
it's a one-quarterback league. I don't care if Deshaun Watson is literally the number 1 fantasy player. It's a one-quarterback league. I get there's 16 teams, so it's a little bit thinner, but it is still only a 1 QB league. You only need one. You barely need a backup.
Yeah,
and you could go get Spencer Rattler if you really needed a spot play this week.
Yeah, I'm not sure how anybody can have the defense of this or whatnot, but
I'd rather play nobody. I'd be okay with 0.
I mean, with the way that the defense scores in this league, you could probably get away without starting anybody and be okay. Like,
I'll hold
honestly,
my top 3 protected first-round pick over getting 7 points from Deshaun Watson. You could have told me I wouldn't trade that for Jaden Daniels.
So, quarterback rating purposes, do you know who's only had the worst quarterback rating than Deshaun Watson in the league this year?
Has there been one?
There's one quarterback that's had a worse QBR than Deshaun Watson this year. Only one. Out of all qualifying quarterbacks, there's only been one that's been worse than Deshaun Watson.
Probably big-headed Aaron Rodgers.
No, not Aaron Rodgers. He's pretty low, but not Aaron Rodgers.
Shocked because he's had terrible games. Who's even played? I don't know that anybody. I can't think of anybody that's played as bad as Watson has.
Bryce Young.
Oh, there you go. I was saying maybe Caleb Williams in that first week, but
so as far as QBR is concerned, at least going into week 6, Bryce Young is the only quarterback that has played worse than Deshaun Watson.
Where Watson falls in quarterbacks now.
Yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to open up the show with that one.
23rd. I will say higher than Matthew Stafford, which is surprising.
That's fantasy points, though, right? So that includes his.
Yes.
His
it's not
ability.
about their. But I'm still surprised he's higher than.
I mean, Stafford. Did Stafford miss a game? No, Stafford's just been banged up. Yeah, but Stafford's been relying a lot on the run for that team, so that's been a lot of the Kyron Williams.
We hear something very funny. So I'm pretty sure Joe Flacco's played like a game and a half.
Yeah, 2, maybe 2.
No, he didn't play the full game.
Yeah, game and a half. Yeah,
game and 3 quarters. We'll go on the game and 3 quarters, and he is currently only about 30 points off of Deshaun Watson. 1 3/4 games. Even if you wanted to say 2 games to Deshaun Watson's 5.
Yeah. So, and I'm assuming that everybody underneath Deshaun probably has played less games other than Matthew Stafford.
It's
Other
really
than Bryce
depressing
Young.
to leave it. I
I'm
mean,
assuming it's
Minshew's behind him, but he
yeah,
hasn't
but
played well.
yeah.
Herbert's a game down. He's behind them.
And he got knocked out
Uh,
of a game too.
Jacoby Brissett, who hasn't played well. Will
Yeah.
Levis is a game behind. Yeah, everybody outside of Matthew Stafford, everybody is a game down. And Jordan Love, I believe, is 2 games behind him. Yep, 2 games behind him, and is only 0.5 points difference. 2 games.
Yeah.
2 full games.
Now, obviously, it's not all Deshaun Watson's fault that's going on. He still is young. I mean, who the hell knows what's going to happen with them? But, it's just, it does not look pretty so far. It looks like there's a lot of, all this off the field issue stuff seems like it's gotten to him, if you want my honest opinion. And I don't even know if I want anything to deal with Deshaun Watson right now in Dynasty or even in redraft. I'm not sure I want anything to do with him.
No,
So,
why would you want him in redraft? He's useless.
yeah.
Unless
So,
you're playing in a 2-3 quarterback league, it's not worth it.
yeah, I don't see the point in making a trade for Deshaun. There's some Deshaun truthers, I guess, still out there. Which, I mean, people are trying to start blaming Kevin Stefanski. I don't know. Cleveland's offensive line's definitely trash. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know, man. I don't think I could trade a top 3 pick for Deshaun Watson in any format.
It could be a 4 QB format. I'm not giving you a top 3 pick.
Even in a Devy format, I'm not even sure I'd trade a top 3 pick for him, to be honest with you.
No, there's still possible better players.
Yes, by the way, here at Dynasty Academy, we are not fans of Deshaun Watson at this moment in time. Okay.
Anymore. I mean, I thought maybe he could come back and
it goes to show that he really needs a DeAndre Hopkins type player, without a doubt. Like, there's just no doubt about it. Like, he needs a DeAndre Hopkins type player.
I don't know if that would matter.
Well, it may
Like,
not.
the weapons around him aren't bad.
Oh, give us your thoughts in the comments about what you think about the trade. For those of you that are tuning into us, the trade is pretty shocking. It's a 16-team league, 1 quarterback league. A guy traded at what is potentially going to be a top 3 pick, most likely going to be a top 3 pick, maybe even the 101, for Deshaun Watson in the 3rd round pick when he already had Josh Allen. So again, it's a 1 quarterback league. It's not a 2 quarterback league. So give us your thoughts if you want as well. Here tonight, we're talking rookies, though. It's a rookie check-in. The first quarter of the season I guess, is it the first quarter now? Because what is it, 17 games? So I guess it's still the first quarter, yeah? Because 4.5 would be the first quarter, roughly.
Yeah, I mean,
we
played 5.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Most of 5. We had one bye week last week.
So the first quarter of the season is gone. So now we have a pretty good idea as to what we're going to see moving forward. Obviously, injuries still play a factor into things. First and foremost, let's just start with the tight end spot. It's not pretty. It's not anything that we expected it to be. But Brock Bowers has been, I think, pretty solid so far for the Raiders. I
think it's pretty much been what we've expected it to be. Brock Bowers and nobody else. Well, I mean, not really. There's 2 other guys I'll bring up, but really nobody else for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, Jatavian Sanders obviously hasn't really even seen the field in Carolina. Not sure what's going on there. A lot of people had him as like their tight end 2 at one point in time. I don't know what's happening in that sense there. The overdrafted Ben Sinnott, who I pretty much told everybody he's going to be a better NFL player than a fantasy player. Don't know why you draft him. He's been pretty much irrelevant. I can't even think of who the other tight ends in this class were.
So the other 2 that I was going to bring up is Eric All and Theo Johnson, because Eric I think shot up boards when he got drafted by Cincinnati, with Gesicki only ahead of him on I'm assuming a 1-year deal.
It is a 1-year deal, yeah.
Signs anymore. Obviously with the idea of that Higgins, Chase are probably gone, so All is a little more athletic guy. I mean, we all keep jumping at the tight end for Cincinnati, thinking it's going to be something. It's never turned out, but here we are again. And then Theo Johnson with the Darren Waller retirement kind of became the guy. I'm very surprised Daniel Bellinger hasn't gotten more usage. He played very well as a rookie, and then since then has just completely fallen off. So, but I mean, neither one of those guys has really lit the world on fire for the most part. I mean, Theo right now is sitting on 8 receptions on the year for 85 yards.
So I saw a thing as far as snap share was concerned. Theo's has increased steadily over the course of the 5 weeks. Um, so I mean, but again, though, this is the position with the tight end position, right? You're waiting for the most part.
Yes.
Eric All has seen the field, but a lot of that has come at the fact that Tanner Hudson's been hurt. If Tanner Hudson gets back, who knows what's going to happen with All and where his role is going to be. Gesicki still has a small role in that system, I guess. So I would imagine that Gesicki's probably eventually going to be losing snaps more and more to All as it goes on. But All's a little bit of a raw product, right? Like
Yes.
he's definitely going to be one of those guys that's going to be developed. However, I think All has, and I didn't really dive into him when we were discussing rookies before. He was not a guy that was really on my radar. But since he's been in Cincinnati and there's been a lot of talks about him, I've kind of looked back at it, and I think All's ceiling is actually pretty high. He could be one of those guys that we end up talking about down the road as a very steady tight end spot that appears inside the top rankings once he develops. And that's if he hits his ceiling, because obviously the tight ends, the floors are always super low.
Well,
But if he gets near it, I think that we could be talking about him as a steady option at tight end in a few years.
and these are the tight ends that usually are the ones that hit, the ones
Right.
that nobody really expected because we don't go crazy for them. We pick them in the 3rd, 4th round and let them develop on the bench. We don't expect
Right.
from them. But I mean, Brock Bowers has kind of been. I mean, I won't go as expected. I don't think he's had like a great start to as people really thought. I think that offense is a little bit holding him back. They still have Mayer. Mayer's been out a few games, so I think that's helped Brock here and there. He's had, I think, two big games, 3 big games now, 3 big games, but 2 clunkers. A 9 and a 7 also.
Yeah.
So, now we're getting a quarterback change. So, but I still wouldn't have drafted him top 6 where people were.
I
now.
still have the same issue that I have with the tight end spot, because I think everybody expected a Sam Laporta-esque type season coming from Brock Bowers in this situation, and anybody who's paid attention to the position knows that that's not what we're going to see, right? We're not getting that. It's just not a relevant. It's an outlier. Like Laporta was the outlier in the situation. However, Bowers is off to a better start than most rookie tight ends, so that will at least be good moving forward. How would you?
The biggest thing going for him is his athleticism. He leans a little more to be a wide receiver than a tight end, so that helps him overall.
He's not the prototypical tight end. He doesn't have the size. He is more of a wide receiver body and type than he does a tight end, body and type. So at least that's what they look for in the NFL purpose of things. Is there a tight end that hasn't really kind of produced that you're keeping an eye on moving forward? Is there anybody that you might think that could crack eventually into, maybe not this year, but somewhere here in the near future?
No.
I still think Jatavian Sanders. I mean, I think the only thing that is holding Carolina back is they need to figure out this quarterback situation. Bryce came in last week, even though they were down by whatever, and looked much better than he had the first 2 weeks. Now, that doesn't mean anything, obviously, because it was garbage time and he was coming in on a team that wasn't prepared for him. However, this is Dave Canellis, and this is what Dave Canellis does. So maybe this is what Dave Canellis needs to do to get Bryce along, and we'll see what happens. But Sanders would be the only guy I'd kind of keep an eye on, but I'm not really going out of my way to. And the only reason why I say Sanders is because he is the athletic type of tight end that can succeed in this league. It's just Carolina is a hindrance, so I'd keep an eye on what they're going to do on offense, but I mean, I don't really think there's any other tight end that came out in this class that I'm really like I want to roster and hold to develop other than those three.
Sanders reminds me a lot of OJ Howard. The athleticism to be a tight end, but probably just going to be a better NFL player than really a fantasy tight end.
Oh yeah, and that's very possibly what could happen for sure. There's no doubt about that. I just I just like erring on the side of caution with or erring on the side of probability more than anything. And right now, Caroline doesn't have a tight end that's in front of them that I worry about, but it doesn't mean that his job is secure either. So that's why I say keep an eye on it. Put him on a watch list, but not like an FBI watch list, but put him on a watch list as well. All right, I want to jump to another position that has kind of become less valuable in the fantasy world lately, and that's running back. And I just figured we'd get the two worst out of the way right off the bat, because this running back class for the rookie side has been essentially dreadful. If I am correct, I believe outside of you can shake your head. It's been pretty dreadful. If I am correct, the RB1 from this rookie class changed after this past week, and I believe it's Tyrone Tracy, who is now the number one. Prior to Tyrone Tracy, I believe the number one running back in this class was Carson Steele. Now, mind you, I understand that Jonathan Brooks has not seen a down yet. I get that. I'm fully aware. However, there's a lot of running backs that were in this class that went to spots that we could be like, okay, and there's nothing like at all.
Well, so the top two running backs for fantasy points right now are Bucky Irving and Braylon Allen.
Oh yeah, Bucky Irving. That's right. I forgot about Bucky Irving.
And Braylon Allen. Those are the top two.
Oh, that's right. Braylon
They're
Allen.
only 0.3 points apart from each other.
That's right, Braylon Allen.
Both
I keep
backups.
Braylon Allen's still there in New York, but
both backups. Both have played well in limited roles.
Yes, yes, I will have to give him that. Yeah,
Bucky is probably I don't want to. Bucky's been a little more surprising to me just because
I forgot about both these guys. That's weird.
You did, yes. You went right to Tyrone Tracy.
Well, because Tyrone Tracy just had probably the best game out of all rookies last week. So
he got a start though. It's hard for Bucky and Braylon.
Oh yeah, I get it
because they are the backups, but they are stealing touches. I mean, I am totally unsure of what the Jets are doing that you aren't using Breece Hall, but that's why you're 2-3 and you fired your head coach and your offensive coordinator is now not calling plays and just that and the other thing.
And that's why Aaron Rodgers looks like the 45-year-old quarterback that you got when he came back. And
so maybe we start to lean back on Breece Hall. But in watching some of Braylon Allen that I've seen, he does look good running the ball, and he is the youngest of the group in general because he was so young in college. Yeah. Not that I'm super high on him, but it just leans to me that this team probably won't re-sign Breece Hall. Depending on who the coach is, who knows?
I do not understand that because Braylon Allen does not have the Breece Hall ceiling.
You're right, but
at all.
Contract.
I get it. I get it because
money.
It's a younger running back football money. I get that, but
yeah, Bucky I think has looked also like I said, good in the limited role he's had, catching passes, breaking off some big runs, but neither. But this running back class, the top two guys weren't expected to play, and we, I think, really said those were the top two guys with a wide margin in Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson.
Yeah,
coming out, they were the top two, but knowing we weren't going to probably get much from them. Season one.
I'll be honest. I expected Benson to possibly take over this backfield, but James Conner has looked a lot better than I thought he was going to look. I thought with him being another year older, but he knows the system, so it works out well. And
I think it's a team that's still trying to win. So they're not turning to the rookie yet. I don't think they're a good enough team to. But they're also their division has been bad, so they're still in it because of that. So it's one of those things. We'll see, but I mean, Tyrone Tracy had a good game as the starter, and it's not like the running back room in New York is stacked. So he could easily hold on to it for this season at some point.
Yep.
But what's the long term? I mean, they're probably looking at a running back next year, maybe signing one. Ray Davis has seen some limited action, but nothing really from there.
Yeah, that's been more Ty Johnson.
It's I think they were a little bit on him at early, but he's not, I don't think, where they want him to be. Carson Steele had a pretty good one game, but has clearly given this to Kareem Hunt and with Clyde coming back, I think he's pretty much fallen off. Everybody kind of thought he was going to be Pacheco,
Yeah.
and he's not. So
No.
I wouldn't do much there. I wouldn't look there. Blake Corum hasn't done a single thing. Kyron is totally taking all of the touches there, which I'm surprised about.
I was shocked about it too, primarily because you spent a second round pick on Corum,
right? But
I mean,
and then
who knows what the Rams are doing.
So Lloyd obviously, and Jordan Mason has taken the Niners backfield, and Isaac Guerrero hasn't seen it at all. So
well, and Guerrero fumbled last week, so that doesn't help anything either. So,
so I mean, I just it's more what have I expected from this running back class. The top guys were not going to be playing, and the other guys were mostly backups. I mean, Tracy is the guy you want to consider, but there easily could go back to Devin Singletary. Who knows?
I fully expect him to go back to Devin Singletary. I mean, so what's the potential long term outcome? Is there any guy that's looking like, outside of Brooks and Benson, because we both kind of expect them to jump back into it, but is there any guy that you want to go out and maybe trade for now, where he's somewhat cheap and think that he can maybe make a name for himself somewhere, regardless of situation right now, just in general?
Bucky Irving is probably one of the higher ones because he's played well. I don't think Rashad is the long-term answer. I don't think the Bucs even think that. I think they're going to, ride out that rookie contract and, maybe re-sign him if he wants to take a cheap deal just to stay. But it's a team that I think would rather spend money other places than the running back position. It's why I think they've rolled with Rachaad White all 3 years, because he hasn't been terrible, but he also hasn't been great, but he also is cheap. So
are you afraid for Bucky Irving from his standpoint that we're looking at like maybe a Tarek Cohen situation where he's good for 2 to 3 years with his size and then just kind of becomes because his size is probably his biggest concern when you're talking about running backs in the situation and them getting typecasted into a certain type of role or whatever it may be. Is there any concern with that as far as Bucky's concerned, or?
No, because it doesn't seem like they're even doing that now. Like, he just is the backup, so he'll come in and it's not like they're pulling him in just to be the third down guy, the pass catcher. When he comes in, he takes the drive. They're just swapping drives.
Well, that's what I mean. Though. They did that with Tarek though for a while in Chicago. I was just wondering if there was maybe the same trajectory, possibly, or.
I mean, he could be Kenneth Gainwell for all we know. Kenneth Gainwell had a good first season there in Philly when they first drafted him and then fell off. I just, based on the guys out there right now in this rookie class, he just looks like he has the cleanest opportunity, in my opinion, to be a starting running back next year.
Yeah. I think Bucky definitely has the potential. I think he was explosive at Oregon. I enjoyed watching him at Oregon, so I think he definitely has the ability and capability of being a guy that has a major role. Now, mind you, when we say starter running back, that's an RBBC. I mean, who the hell knows what it could be? I don't see Bucky taking over a backfield on his own by any means. But, we say starter. I mean, he's going to probably have somebody there with him to split with. So
if you're getting 60% of your team's touches, that's a good starting running back at this point.
Yeah, at this point it is. Okay. Fair enough. Let's go to quarterbacks because I feel like the wide receiver pool is a little bit deeper, but there is a lot of rookie quarterbacks that are rolling out here now. Drake May has, and most people know, is getting his first start this week. We kind of we kind of
put a pin in him.
Yeah, we're going to pin him. We kind of expected him to actually sit the whole year or close to the whole year. But New England apparently decides that they wanted to make the move now, and that may have something to do with the fact that Buffalo's lost 2 games, Miami's in shambles, the Jets are 2-3. You know, who knows? Maybe there's still an opening there, and they think that they can get it. Who the hell knows? But we'll pin Drake May just for that purpose. Spencer Rattler's going to get his first start this week. I know there's a lot of people that were excited about where his landing spot was, his opportunity, his chance. He's going to get that. I hope he just performs really well. I don't think the Saints are going to turn to him this season, but I think that if he plays well in that period of time and shows flashes and shows some maturity, I think that they could easily make him the future of that team, at least for a couple of years after Derek Carr. And then let's see who else is starting. That's a rookie that we are looking at. Who am I missing? JJ McCarthy's injured, so we can't really just say much about him. So that really leaves Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, right?
Yeah, I think that those are the 3 that have started all year.
Yeah, those are the 3 that have started all year. Let's start with Bo Nix. What's the overall shake on Mr. Bo Callahan? Bo Nix.
So little inconsistent. Has had some really good games and had some pretty dreadful ones.
Like 69 yards or whatever it was against the Jets.
Something like that, yes. I think he's playing well enough that he is probably their starter. I don't know that the team around him is defense is good. Offense, I think the offensive line isn't been that great. But I think they're starting to find themselves as a team, you know, with having a rookie quarterback and stuff like that. So I think the needle is still pointing up for him. I'm not saying he's, a future Hall of Famer or anything, but I don't see him getting benched. I think he's played well enough that there's no reason to be worried about him if you own him.
Is this a situation where, because he is considered an extremely accurate quarterback, and he is kind of, I guess, typecasted as the perfect, like, Sean Payton type quarterback, obviously in relation to Drew Brees. However, Sean Payton didn't have Drew Brees for his, first 4 years in the league. So is this going to be a situation where we could see Bo Nix sticking with Sean Payton for, let's say, 2 to 3 years, and then he hits potentials that we didn't expect? Is that a possibility for Bo? Do you think the ceiling could be potentially, and maybe not Drew Brees high, but higher than what we expected to come from Bo? Or is it just going to be a situation where you think when Peyton goes, the team moves on from Bo?
No, I mean, I don't see that where if there was a new coach, they'd move on from him instantly. I mean, I think he can be a Kirk Cousins-esque kind of career. Not maybe as many yards as Kirk has put up in the past. Kirk's had some pretty high yardage years.
Yes.
But more in that, maybe like a Matt Hasselbeck kind of, where good, not great, could lead your team maybe to a Super Bowl at one point with, if you have the right pieces around them. But, you're never going in fantasy, you're going to keep him on your roster as your QB 2-3 because he's going to be the starter and he's going to at least score, for the most part, decent points. But he's never, I don't see him as a top 6 quarterback ever.
Yeah, I can agree with that. The big thing here for me with Bo is, this offense is in a weird dynamic. Like, Cortland Sutton has never reached his true potential. He's still a solid wide receiver, but he's never reached his true potential. They don't have a true definitive playmaker on this team. everybody expected Marvin Mims, and he hasn't even seen the field. Even to the point where little Jordan Humphrey is getting more playing time because of his connection with Sean Payton from the Saints,
And playing better.
which is super, and playing better, which is super concerning from a standpoint of Mims. And then
And Troy Franklin's out here still dropping passes.
and Troy Franklin still being the Troy Franklin that we all loved at Oregon. So it's like they spent these high picks because Mims, I believe, was a second round pick too. I believe
second
so,
or third,
or third. I mean,
second or third. Though it was
and they're drafting the wrong guys. Like there's got to be something that clicks for them because he doesn't have the weapons that he should have at this moment in time, going in being as a rookie starter through 5 games. Now, does that mean that Troy doesn't kind of put it together eventually? Who the hell knows? But right now, when little Jordan Humphrey is basically your wide receiver 1, because Cortland Sutton's just a steady guy at this point, he'll get you 4 for 35 and maybe a first down when you need it. That's a problem. And that's a huge, huge issue. And it's wasting Javonte Williams for a very nice bounce back year this year. And it's wasting him, and he's going to probably be gone by the time this Denver team does put it together. But that old line, like, they realize that there's an old line that they need, right? Like, I don't know, man. I worry about Bo a little bit just because I don't, like you said, like I think he's going to be a very good, solid guy around the league. I just worry with him being in Denver until they can figure this out that it's going to be ugly for the first few years.
But they're at least playing well enough as a team that I think if they can at least continue this style, I don't think Sean Payton will get fired anytime soon because I think you can see the uptick in the team.
That's the hope, anyways, because obviously you don't want to see him. You don't want to see the Bo Nix get the Alex Smith treatment of like 18 different offensive linemen, and everything else along that line. We have a first. I'm assuming this is a redraft question. It was: would you take the Eagles defense this week against Cleveland, or would you take Pittsburgh's against Las Vegas? Thank you, Austin, for tuning. Thank you, Austin, for tuning in and giving a question. You say the Eagles.
Yeah, it's Cleveland.
Oh, it is Cleveland. I say Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Austin, primarily. So I know that doesn't help you when we're split on the panel. For me, Cleveland's offense is absolutely dreadful for sure. Yes, but the Eagles rank 29th in giving up fantasy points, and they're making a change at the nickelback. Now, the nickelback was always going to be Cooper DeJean. They were always working towards Cooper DeJean, but he gets his first start as a rookie this week, and Pittsburgh's defense has just been Pittsburgh's defense. I mean, let's face it, this team is 4-1 because of Pittsburgh's defense, basically, or 3-2 because of Pittsburgh's defense. And they're going against a quarterback change in Las Vegas that also has other issues going on with this Devontae Adams situation, and they have not looked well. I think Pittsburgh that game against Las Vegas is going to be ugly, but I think that's going to be perfect to fit in for a Pittsburgh defense this week. Just personally, that's my thought and why I picked Pittsburgh. Mark picked Philadelphia just because it's Cleveland. So, I mean,
been bad.
Cleveland is bad, especially the offensive line. Basically, it's a coin flip, Austin. I don't think it could hurt you either way.
Yeah, I would probably just play it. I mean, if you have either one, play either one. If you don't have either one,
Pittsburgh, I think is the safer option. Philadelphia, I think, is the boom option.
If I was, it has both.
Oh, it's both. Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah,
put one in and you should be fine.
Yeah.
To answer this question, if you were possibly looking at a waiver wire pickup, I would look at their upcoming schedule. Is this a possibility where I could get 2 to 3 weeks out of the same defense when it's a coin flip like this? That's how I would distinguish a choice like that. If I was like, oh, yeah, they'll have good matchups, reasons for both. Who do they play next week? That's what it would come down to for me. The Eagles have the Giants, and the Steelers have the Jets. Okay, so then who do they play 2 weeks from now? Eagles have the Bengals, and the Steelers have the Giants. So I'd probably go Steelers because those 3 games are a better. I probably would start them in all 3 of those games.
Yeah, if it was just me in a waiver wire, I'd just be switching it every week anyways.
No, I
'Cause
would too. But if I could get 3 weeks and not have to worry about it, I would
yeah,
do that.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, anyways, Austin, yeah, if you have both, you could probably plug and play. I think Eagles are the bigger boom. I think Pittsburgh's the safer play. That's so.
Yeah.
If that
So
gives you,
well,
it's a
look how your
legit coin
team
flip.
looks.
Right.
Are you looking like a pretty good, contending team to win this week? Play the Steelers. Do you need maybe that little extra boost that you might get a touchdown off of? Because we know Deshaun Watson loves throwing pick sixes.
He does.
Then put the Eagles in there. Maybe get 18 points out of them.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Back to the rookie quarterback situation. Let's talk about Jaden Daniels. I mean,
You're just switching right over Caleb because Jaden's the number one. I thought we were going to go in
Jaden's
order.
definitely the number one. Yeah, Austin. If the team that you're playing against isn't doing well, then start Pittsburgh and play it safe, just so you can get the
Yeah.
win. If it was
Get your 8,
vice
9
versa
points.
and you needed the win, play Philadelphia. But if the team you're playing isn't that great, stick with Pittsburgh. Play the safety, play the floor. Yeah, I'm going to skip over to Caleb for right now because Caleb is definitely the number 2. Well, but you know what, you mentioned it. Let's just go with Caleb. Caleb's the number 2, obviously in this system at the rookie quarterbacks. What's your thoughts on this one?
Getting better.
Getting better. I agree.
Starting to, I think, finally get into this offense a bit. Struggled a little against the Rams, but that Rams defense has been like
They're tricky.
good,
Right? They're tricky.
weird good for how bad the offense have played. Like they are in games legitimately only because of that defense.
Yeah.
But played really well against Indy, played really well against Carolina. I think what we're starting to see though is the turnovers are coming down. Really, really worried about turnovers early on. Obviously, it was a college issue too. Last 2 games, no picks. I'm not sure if he had any fumbles in those 2 games, but no interceptions. So if he could limit that part of his game, and only end up on the season with maybe 9, 10 interceptions, I think we'll look at the season as being more of a success. Early on though, really, really disappointing start. But maybe, we start to get some of these weapons back, and maybe we get the Caleb we a little more expected with this team.
My only issue is, even though he's getting better, my only issue is Carolina. It's really hard to gauge just how much better he's getting when you played a Carolina team that, at least in the secondary and defensively, is not that good. Now, he had a decent game against Indianapolis where he threw for over 300, but he threw 2 picks in that game. And the 3 games that he put up clunkers in where he scored 10 points or less, basically, were teams that had QB 21, QB 29, QB 31. So they were in a situation where those 3 teams were good against the quarterback, and he didn't really do it much. And I know it's a rookie quarterback, and we all know what happens with rookie quarterbacks. CJ Stroud's a little bit of an outlier for how well people play, and Jaden Daniels, who we'll talk about next, obviously. But it's just the fact that with the hype surrounding this kid coming in, it's obviously good that you see the improvement, but can we really gauge Carolina as that line for technically the improvement part of it? That's my question. And he's got Jacksonville next, which isn't much better. He could easily go out there and throw for 400 against that team. So,
but the line, when you look at the line against the Rams, isn't a great stat line, and obviously this is fantasy, and it's what we care about. But as a game, he played a really good game. It's just
it was 17 for 23. I mean, the completion percentage was nice, and 157 and the 1 touchdown. But that.
But they scored 4 times. That was the big DeAndre Swift game.
Yeah, because DeAndre Swift, because the Rams are awful against the run. So,
but I mean I can't say it was he ends up being quarterback 21. Yes, but game script is sometimes where it leads to, and that's just what we get. I just like the progression of if we can continue these weeks of 1 to 0 interceptions, that's what I'm looking for Caleb right now.
Right.
Can you progress? And you're finally getting Keelan Allen back. So now you're at least getting that safety net type of wide receiver back. DJ Moore has finally started to play a lot, well, not play better, but finally getting worked into this offense properly with Caleb Williams, where he should have been early on. But, who knows how that connection was. Oh, no. Mason's down hurt right now.
Oh, Isaac Guerrero, rookie running back.
But so that's what I'm looking at for him. He's not putting up the stats like Jaden Daniels is, and nobody really is at this point. But I like that Caleb is at least looking like he's progressing. We'll see how that trends. We're only at game 6 this week, so
yeah, and of course it's early in the season and things are going to, and it did look up against Carolina, and that is a positive. It's just it's hard to gauge because it is Carolina, so it's hard to be like, yeah, he's improving. He did protect the ball pretty well against the Rams, which is nice to see. And the Colts, he had a very good game, but the 2 interceptions were ugly interceptions. So hopefully, like you said, he can keep that cut down on the turnovers and continue to improve. That's what we want to see from him, is some continued improvement, right? So
yeah.
All right, QB1, Jaden Daniels. I mean, obviously this guy has been, and that's not even me talking as a Commanders fan. It's literally just been a lot of fun to watch him. He's cool, calm, collective. He's very dynamic in everything that he does. He's smart. This kid is really, really smart. He makes some really good decisions. The outlook on him has got to be to the moon right now. Like, it has to be.
I mean, I haven't seen a ton of his runs, but when I see them, they seem to be smart runs, not getting blown up runs. Like he's getting down or getting out of bounds, getting away from the hit, but still able to score the fantasy points from running because he's putting up good rushing stats.
Yep.
And that was, I think, the worry was, we always knew he was athletic, but could he be, like you said, smart enough to protect himself and not try to overdo it? And I think that's been, the biggest thing for him is what he's been doing.
I think the best thing about him in this offense and what Cliff Kingsbury has done is there are no designed runs for Jaden Daniels. The runs are completely 100% at his discretion, and he's still always looking to pass first when it's a passing situation. He just progresses through his reads so good and fast that he's able to make plays when he doesn't feel like that there's something there, but he's still looking to pass first. Obviously, the RPO is still a factor in this game, but overall, he's still looking to what's going to be the best play first, not just me running the ball. And there's no quarterback blast. There's no quarterback dive. I mean, occasionally you might run a quarterback draw, but that's just because, most every team has a quarterback draw unless you have a statue back there. But, and I think that that's really, really smart because you're limiting the hits. It's the complete opposite of what we saw when RG3 was in Washington with Kyle Shanahan. Right? RG3, they were running him through the RPO system, the pistol, but they were giving him quarterback designed runs on a alarming base. And they're not really doing that with Jaden, and I think that that's really, really smart.
I mean, a 77 completion percentage is great. The 2 interceptions the last 2 weeks, so let's hope that doesn't create a trend for him. Hopefully, that's just rookie being rookie.
Yeah.
But there's been really nothing to dislike about what he's been doing so far. Yes, first game didn't look great, but pretty much shook that right off, came back and has won, hasn't lost since.
And you take a look at this, and you take a look and listen to him, right? When interviews and everything else, and you take a look at who he is as a person and what he is as an individual, and you can tell that he is determined to become great. Like, you can tell that, and I know that seems like a weird thing to say because he's like, of course he wants to be great. He's in the NFL, but he doesn't really have any of that other outside stuff that he wants. He literally just wants to be known as the first Jaden Daniels. That's what he wants to be known as, and I think that that's a great mentality because he doesn't do it in like a cocky manner of like, like I am the first Jaden. Like he's like, I want to be known as the first Jaden Daniels, and that's what I want to be known as, and that there's a difference there than some of the other times that you hear that, people like, I want to be the first me. And this is a different feel. And I'm excited as a Commanders fan, obviously, because we haven't had anybody, RG3 had a very good first start his rookie year and looked really well, but that whole team was just so mismanaged across the board. I feel much better about this team. I know I was very apprehensive about Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury. I will eat crow on both of those guys because so far they have been great for this team. Because let's face it, this team still has one of the highest cap spaces in football and is not the most talented team on the planet. And they are 4-1 and the highest scoring team in football.
And their defense has a lot of holes, but they've been able to at least stay in games. And you're talking about Diami Brown and
Olamide Zaccheaus and Luke McCaffrey and Terry McLaurin.
I mean, Luke's started to come a little bit lately, but there's somebody else I'm missing. There's another guy I feel like has been.
Well, Zach Ertz has been primarily the safety net, but you mentioned the defense, and I'm glad you mentioned the defense when it comes to Washington. But you know what I will say that Jaden Daniels is doing for this team that past teams haven't been doing is he's been able to keep the offense on the field so that defense can rest. So even though they're not the most talented, they only need to go out and make a handful of stops, and this team is going to score. Obviously that's not going to be sustainable all year as you get further into with injuries and stuff, but Frankie Louvu, signing him was probably one of the best moves that anybody has ever made. So, in this offseason, it's going to be an underrated signing because he is playing defensive player of the year style of football right now, even on a bad team. Like, he is that good right now. So, he was all over the place last week. I don't know if you saw his stat line. He had like 15 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, 2 pass defenses. Like, he was nuts last week. So
I still think the best thing is his chant in the locker room after the game when they gave him the game ball. That was the best part of it all. Eckler was he's the running back, but he's the running back. He's been very good when he's been healthy.
Yeah, and Eckler was a nice little signing too. So this Washington team has a lot of moving forward, and a lot of that comes from Jaden Daniels. Though you can see the locker room believes in him, you can see the players believe in him, you can see that they trust him, and I'll be honest with you, Dan Quinn trusts him. Like, that's the great thing.
The thing with Dan Quinn that will interest me is how he continues to build the team, because I think in Atlanta that was what his downfall was he, not that he inherited the greatest team, but I don't think he took over the worst team either, and it just didn't last.
Right.
So can he continue to be able to build, and hopefully Cliff doesn't go take a head coaching job somewhere, because he's really good as an offensive coordinator, it seems like.
Yeah, he's really good as an offensive coordinator. Hopefully he doesn't turn into Kyle Shanahan. Yes, Cedric Green, by the way, folks, in case you don't know, he has a show. I think it's the Fantasy Football Reports on the Shady Sports Network as well. They cover a little bit of everything. They said that he talks about everything. We talked a little bit with the trade that I opened the show with Mark. Check out his show on the Shady Sports Network as well. Make sure you hit that little like button, subscribe button, the little dingy. But the Washington offense definitely does make the defense look better than they are, but that's what's needed in football. One of the things that I tell Mark all the time, or that Mark has heard me say all the time, I should say, is sometimes the best defense is a really good offense.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we see it, these high power offenses, sometimes they're in shootouts because they score so quickly. You don't give your defense a chance to catch their breath, and they're out there doing it again.
Yeah, I said I don't think you were here at the beginning of the show, but we both said we wouldn't even do it in a 2 quarterback league. We didn't even want the 112 or the 116 for that trade at all. So
Not
yeah,
in a
that trade
one
was pretty
quarterback league
brutal.
at all.
Yeah, that trade was pretty brutal. All right, rookie quarterbacks out of the way, done. Jaden Daniels obviously right now being the number one. Okay, let's talk about this wide receiving group. I'm not even going to try to talk about rankings just because I think we all know it's Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, the 1-2, boom, boom. My question is, who's disappointed you that you had hopes for, or who isn't living up to what you expected as a rookie wide receiver in this case? Because there's two that really stick out to me.
Lad's been a little disappointing to me. Lad
Okay.
McConkey out there in LA, and then Adonai Mitchell has been disappointing, but
Yeah.
I don't fully blame him. I think it's more maybe Alec Pierce and Josh Downs are just maybe it forced them to be better players, or maybe just because they're in their third and fourth years, they're just better players. But I mean, it's not been great for what we expected from AD Mitchell, but I think that's because we didn't expect these guys to do anything because they haven't been. So I don't blame him as much. Lad, though, I mean, it's not. Granted, Quentin Johnson has decided to figure out how to catch the ball, so maybe I can't blame Lad as much either because QJ actually knows how to catch the ball now. Maybe that was what he needed. He needed a guy to be like, "Hey, these are your hands. Use them to catch that thing."
My concern with AD Mitchell, because AD Mitchell was also on my list of disappointing so far, um, is the fact that Alec Pierce, right? Alec Pierce was the guy who benefited from Josh Downs not playing early in the year. And Alec
Okay.
Pierce was a nobody. Like, you were a second round draft pick, super athletic, super, you had everything as far as the tape looked good, the logistics looked good, all that stuff. How did you get outplayed by Alec Pierce? And to not be able to fill in for that role when Josh Downs was hurt. That was that's where my disappointment comes in from. Now maybe it's a coaching thing. Maybe the coach doesn't trust him just yet because he's a rookie. Maybe they trust Alec Pierce a little bit because he's in the system. Whatever it may be, it's still just the fact that you haven't beaten Alec Pierce. What
But
makes you truly think,
let's
or what?
also not give Anthony Richardson all the credit in the world either because he's been pretty bad outside of that one game.
Yeah,
I feel like.
and that's fair too, and that's definitely a fair situation. And this Colts offensive line has kind of got holes in it as well, so that's a problem as well. But I just, I'm very, I'm just very surprised that AD Mitchell has not figured out a better role into this offense. Now, mind you, I don't think AD Mitchell was really needed in this team, anyways. I think Josh Downs and Michael Pittman were perfectly fine. I mean, you needed him for an injury, but maybe for some depth. But if you're only drafting a guy in the second round for depth, then you're probably doing it wrong. And Chris Ballard has been one of the better GMs in football, so that really surprises me that they would make a second round pick just for a depth piece. Or maybe it's because they didn't trust Josh Downs. I don't know.
I mean,
The head
I
coach
would
loves
say
him.
they didn't trust either one of them. But
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't want to sit down here and say Alec Pierce has been great. He's had a few boom bust games, which is what
But
Alec Pierce is going to be.
but he's been
But I
on the
mean,
field more than AD Mitchell. That's the
but he's
problem.
also a third, fourth year guy. I mean, that's I could
I
Anthony
guess.
Richardson. I don't know has it. I mean, because Joe Flacco behind that offensive line played pretty well this past week.
Yeah.
So Anthony Richardson as the athletic guy who should at least be able to overcome a bad offensive line is still showing the signs that he is so raw right now.
I mean, but
I
what he say? What is 7 starts in his career?
well, that's my thing though, and
So
I don't know why they keep forcing him out there. If he's kind of injured, why throw him out there again this week? Joe Flacco played well. Let Anthony Richardson get fully healthy instead of
yeah,
just throwing out there again
run a
and
trade
again.
situation.
I think I mean but so I have a hard time holding AD Mitchell to that just because I think they're going with the vets. Now, Michael Pittman is hurt this week.
Yes.
A.D. Mitchell should take that role because Alec Pierce is still going to be out there. Josh Downs is still going to be in the slot. A.D. Mitchell should be taking the Michael Pittman role at this point. And if he doesn't, then I'll be even more disappointed because that's where he should be able to step in. Not that he's going to have a great game, but his snap percentage should go way up.
Yeah. My other disappointment is Keon Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
And primarily because who's in that wide receiving core that you can't get looks on a consistent basis? Now, maybe it's a disconnect. Maybe he rubbed people the wrong way because of his personality. I don't know. Keon Coleman was literally the most trustworthy guy in that Florida State offense. And you take a look and throw that ball to him, and get him in the vicinity, chances are he's probably going to make a play and catch it. And they're not even doing that for the most part. There was that one weird play where the ball bounced off his helmet. It looks like he just missed a signal from Josh, pre-snap. But, I mean, other than that, though, why? Khalil Shakir has absolutely run this team as a wide receiver one. He's looked fantastic doing it, by the way, may I add. However, he was hurt last week. So Keon Coleman had one catch for 40 yards and a touchdown. It was a dynamic play, by the way. And he had, 3 targets total?
5.
Oh, he had 5 targets. And I think 2 of them were not catchable targets.
Possibly.
Or what would be deemed not catchable.
One catch, 5 targets.
Yeah, so what's happening with that? Curtis Samuel's not been anything, and Mac Hollins is, I don't even know why he's on a team,
but he's out targeting him.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And
that so Keon Coleman's a disappointment for me so far through the first 5 weeks.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, he's for me, he was kind of raw coming out in general, so I didn't have the highest hopes of Keon Coleman coming this year. I know that wide receiver room isn't the greatest around him, so it raises his hopes up more. But I still didn't, he's still, I think, a raw prospect compared to.
It really wasn't that there was high expectations. It was more just like a more consistent. Yeah, more consistent. I excluded Xavier Legette from this list because Carolina was a mess.
Yeah,
and he was hurt last week. But the week before that, he was 6 for 66 and a touchdown. So
I don't care what he does at this point, unless this team decides keeps figuring it out with Andy Dalton.
So I excluded Legette from that list until Carolina can figure it out what's going on over there. Obviously. What are your thoughts on Rome Odunze so far? We know that Rome was a guy that we kind of knew out of the top 3 that we probably weren't going to get a ton of from in the first year because of DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. But has it exceeded what you've thought so far through the first 5 games? Has it been right on par? What do you think about Rome so far?
I don't want to say it's exceeded. He had one really good game, which was nice to see. I think it's pretty on par with what I expected. Maybe a little bit more just him being on the field, but I think some of that could be Keenan Allen being injured, so he's gotten a little bit more playing time because of that. It's about where I expected him to be. I mean, he hasn't been bad. He hasn't been great, but kind of just been there. But he's on the field for them, which is what you would be looking for when the offense has so many weapons. At least you're putting Rome out there and letting him work into the game flow. And when that usually happens, it's those week 10, 11, 12 when guys like that start to take over a little more. But we'll see, with his offense where he's at for that point. But for me, he's been pretty on par for what I expected.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected too from Rome. Actually, maybe a little bit more. He's done a little bit more than what I expected to this point as well. But I've been impressed with him. My number 3 guy, if I was to put a rankings on this, would be Brian Thomas, though, in Jacksonville. I think
You want to
he's
talk about somebody who's gone way over expectations?
way over expectations,
Brian
without a doubt.
Thomas. Yes.
Real quick, though, every year San Francisco 49ers fall like flies. It's crazy. They get hurt
Especially
every
at
year.
running back.
Well, Malik Mustafa is now questionable to return with an injury as well for them, which is one of their better safeties. And they had another safety that didn't even play in today's game with that Hufanga. And it's crazy. Also, the Yankees are beating the Royals 2-0 right now. Brian Thomas. What can you say about this guy? I mean, he's definitely exceeded expectations. I thought the veteranism of Gabe Davis would keep him off the field from the beginning, early in the season, just because of the veteran status, whatever else. That was not the case. It was right out of week 1. Brian Thomas was like, "I'm here to stay," and Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked the greatest. The Jacksonville Jaguars haven't looked the greatest. But on the flip side too, this is a team that is a defense away from being possibly 4-1. You can make a case for, probably 3-2, but you can make a case for them winning at least 2 games that they should have technically won, that the defense failed on them. So it can only be wheels up for the offense, hopefully, moving forward after last week.
Well, and I think the best part of Brian Thomas is it hasn't had to be high volume for his games to be good. Early on, it wasn't. He was only getting four targets both the first 2 games. But the explosive plays that Brian Thomas is able to, the exciting catches, and then since then, because he's been able to make those type of plays, he's now becoming relied upon. Where we went from 4 targets to 9, 9, and 8. So that's what's exciting about it is it didn't come out of the gates with, oh, we're just going to throw the ball a ton to this guy. No, he's rookie. We'll slowly bring him in. Oh, wow, he just made a huge catch and a great play multiple times, and clearly making plays outside of stuff like that on the field. Coaches look, what are you doing when the ball isn't coming your way?
Right.
And clearly he's building the trust with Trevor and Peterson and whoever the OC is, that now we're starting to focus on him, which I think is helping Kirk out, because the focus is being taken off of Christian Kirk, where now he can start playing that role where he had that great season where he was really the second fiddle type of player, which is, I think, better for Christian Kirk, which is better for this offense.
Yeah, I only
Evan
mentioned the 2
Ingram
and
should
3.
be getting back too. Should help.
Yeah, and Evan
offense
Ingram's
as a
expected
whole
to play this week. Yeah, and I only mentioned the 2 and 3 in the record thing because primarily I feel like it's a confidence thing, right? Like this team should be 3-2, but they're 1-4, so their confidence is shot. But once this team starts finding its swag back, that swag that we saw 2 years ago, right? That swag that we saw against the Chargers, in that playoff game when they were down, but they knew that they could come back and win that game. Like, once we start seeing that, I think that Brian Thomas is going to put himself in the category with those top 3 guys at the end of this year, as far as somebody that you're going to want on your team. And I always liked Brian Thomas. It was just crazy to me, his draft situation where he was, the Jacksonville traded out when he was on the board and still ended up with them. And he went to a team that I expected to slowly work him in, and he just was like, no. Like, you're going to know who I am. And I literally am so happy for him, and I hope that it continues, and I hope they do find that confidence. Maybe, like I said, Trevor Lawrence's might be back after last week, because he set a personal record for yardage in a game. It was the personal best last week.
Really? Wow.
Yep. It was personal best last week. So, by all means, Malik Neighbors. I'm going to put him at 2. You could probably put him at 1. I think you could probably interchange him. He got hurt, so it was tough. But Malik Neighbors, I mean, we could probably combine these two, believe it or not. Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. To me, it's what I expected.
I mean, he is getting the volume because there's nothing else there. So he's getting peppered with targets. But he is legitimately the best player on the field most of the times
Absolutely.
from either team.
Yep.
So they're throwing him the ball, but that is because you should be throwing him the ball, and he is doing what he should be doing. Like, I mean, he has come out and become the number one wide receiver. Marvin has been, I think, a little more disappointing as a whole because he's not doing what Malik Neighbors is doing. Malik
that's
Neighbors
fair.
was like, hey, you all talked about that guy as the generational guy, and you didn't want to talk about me. Well, look, here I am. Here's 20, 30, 35 catches in 4 games. What do you think about that? Like
Yeah.
over 100 yards in 2 of those 4 games. 3 touchdowns. Like, you better speak about me more than you speak about that guy because he is just, outside of being injured, totally crushing it. You know, I really love what Brian Thomas has been doing, but Malik Neighbors is like, who's that guy?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Brian Thomas who?
You
Marvin
mean
Harrison.
Marvin
Who?
Harrison? Yeah. No.
Both of them. I mean, they're both playing well.
Oh,
Otherwise,
yeah.
but when you compare them to what Malik Neighbors is doing, they're pedestrian.
Yeah, and it's good for the Giants too because like, it goes back to the confidence side of things, right? Like the Giants just walked in without Malik Neighbors and beat Seattle in Seattle. I know that doesn't look very good with today with San Francisco beating Seattle in Seattle, but this Giants team has needed somebody like Malik, right? Like Daniel Jones. It looks different with Daniel Jones now on the field, right? Like when Malik is on the field, it looks different than what we've seen in Daniel in the past. It was a rocky start, yes, but I think this team is finally finding its footing in chemistry. Not saying that the Giants are going to go on this tear or anything, but Malik Neighbors could very easily be the wide receiver 1 in rookie of the year offensively. I mean, well, maybe not because Jaden Daniels is there, but could be in the running with Jaden. But
right now it's those two. But yeah, Jaden's still way ahead of with how well he's playing. Malik's been great, but Jaden's been like, yeah,
astronomical.
Doing the thing. Yeah,
yeah. So, but Malik Neighbors will be in the discussion for sure. For me, Marvin Harrison. The only reason why I said Marvin Harrison's doing what Marvin Harrison does, just because what he should be doing, Malik Neighbors is doing because they don't have anybody, but I also feel like that the quarterback situation is a little bit different because they rely so much more on Kyler in that offense than they necessarily do Daniel Jones in the offense with New York now, not before, but now. And so with that, I think, James Conner, the run game, I think is better in Arizona than it is in New York. And Kyler Murray's athleticism kind of eats into situations where he's not necessarily targeting Harrison the same way that Neighbors is getting targeted by Daniel Jones. But
it's 100% not the same. But
yeah, but it's still, I think, not where we expected for a wide receiver being the 4th overall pick and all the hype that was surrounding him and what we expected from him pretty much right out of the gate in a situation where Greg Dortch was your wide receiver 1. And that's probably the biggest disappointment. Now, that being said, I still think, I mean, maybe not statistically, he might be number 3 statistically behind Brian Thomas, but I still think overall, moving forward from a dynasty perspective, you got to have Harrison in your top 2. Like, I just feel
I
like
don't disagree with that at all.
Like,
No,
I feel like
definitely
you need
still
to.
the top 2. Yes.
I feel like you need to. So,
I think the toughest thing for me was that Washington secondary isn't great. Let's not act like it is.
But they're terrible. What do you mean not great? It's terrible.
I mean, they've been playing well, but
no. Anytime that we have friggin' what's his name from Mississippi, Emmanuel Forbes, anywhere near a secondary, it's terrible. If he's on a team, that secondary, he could literally be a special teams player. If he's on the team, that secondary comes down at least 10 points.
But only 5 for 45 from Marvin. I mean, so it's. I get he's going to be getting more coverage, but the way he was talked about, not only in fantasy but in the NFL, he should still be beating that coverage. So yes. I think hopefully he's feeling the humbleness and trying to get better from it because he's getting humbled right now in the NFL because the way he was talked about, he was going to come in and just dominate everybody, like the next coming of Jerry Rice in Jerry Rice's prime. So, I just, wide receiver 1 in that one game, but that was 2 huge throws. And then we're talking about 103, 20, 26, and 60. Not the greatest from a guy who is expected to be the guy. And when Malik is doing what Malik is doing, I think it makes it look a little worse because you can't look at either offense and go, well, that one's way better than the other one.
Right.
Yes, Arizona is better, but it's not like miles ahead better.
Yeah, for sure. I want to give a shout out to the Washington edge rushers too, by the way. I don't think anybody can name them, and they had, I think, 4 sacks in that game against Arizona. So one of them's like a 7th round pick, Javante Jean Baptiste maybe or something, or Javante something. And then I think they brought over one of the guys from Dallas too. But I just wanted to give a shout out real quick because
it's not like Cleveland's offensive line has been great.
Well, the game against Arizona, I think they had 4 sacks in that game too, though, or 3.
So in the game against Cleveland, they had 7 sacks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it was. I think the Arizona game they had 3 or 4 though. So
Jonathan Allen is the one guy I know from that defensive line. I know he's not a defensive end.
Well, there's another guy from Bama too. It's Jonathan Allen and why can't I think of his name? Dude's like a beast.
Dorrance Armstrong?
No, Dorrance Armstrong is the defensive end that came over from Dallas.
Okay, he had a sack and a half against Deron Payne.
Deron Payne, that's it. Deron Payne's the other one.
But he's also a defensive tackle. He's not even a defensive end, I feel like, either, isn't he?
No, they're both. Him and Allen are defensive tackles.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I mean. So that you're.
But the other defensive end is like a 7th round pick from this year.
Benjamin St. Juice.
No, that's a corner. That's a cornerback.
Oh, he's a corner. Yeah, sorry.
It's like Javante Jean or Javante Jean Baptiste or Jean. I don't remember what his last name is. It's like one of those hyphenated, like French hyphenated names. But
well,
yeah,
he didn't record any type of defensive tackles then against the Cardinals.
He may not have played again. Hold on a second. I'll find it. I know what it is. He's like a 7th round pick, but I think the one game that I watched him play, it might have been Cleveland. He kind of had himself a nice little game.
Oh yeah, Javante Jean Baptiste.
Yeah, Jean Baptiste. Yeah, okay.
1 tackle.
So maybe that wasn't the game then either. There was a game that he actually had a sack in. I just don't remember where it was. But he started. He was actually a starter at one point.
Log.
So
he has 1 sack against Cincinnati, and that was his only tackle in that game also.
It was Cincinnati. He started that game though. That was the game I think it was Cincinnati. So.
3 tackles, 2 solos, 1 sack.
Yeah, he's a rotated guy though. There's somebody else that they have on the other side. But anyways, what I'm saying is the edge rushers have actually played pretty well, considering nobody knows who the fuck they are. Is what I was getting at. I didn't know who
tackles have played.
I didn't know who he was before Cincinnati. So I mean, and I still don't really know who he is now.
Your defensive tackles have done exactly what they should be doing to open up everything for anybody else and playing well on top of that for themselves.
I mean, clearly it's Frankie Louvu. That's the. I mean,
but I'm saying, you can give
Allen
that
and
to
Payne.
your defensive
Allen and Payne. Absolutely, yes.
Opening that up for Louvu and Bobby Wagner to
play well. Too, yeah, for sure. I just wanted to give him a shout out though. Anyways, for the 7 sacks, whatever else.
So there you go against Joe Burrow, Shiesty.
Yeah, Shiesty.
Get away from him.
So that's going to do it from us here tonight at Dynasty Academy rookie check-in. Until next week. Wait, I don't think we got anything. You got anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to add? Any rookies that you want to talk about real quick before we head off?
No, it's been a pretty solid rookie class so far.
It has been, yeah. I agree. Be patient with Leggett, guys. Be patient with Keon Coleman. Be patient with A.D. Mitchell. Be patient with those guys. They'll be patient with Vlad. They're all rookies. Be patient with them. Don't go off selling them yet. Just be patient with them. Sell Troy Franklin, though. That's going to do it from us today at Dynasty Academy. I'm Michael Washington. He's Mark Onks, Chewbacca77, Onks the 11 on Sleeper if you are still with us from our leagues. Until then, until next week, good night.